All right, let's take a little trip back in time, shall we? We're going to dive into just one single document, a newsletter from all the way back in November 1985, to uncover the story of a youth community in Singapore, their struggles, their incredible resilience, and their vision for the future. So what you're looking at here is a news bulletin from the youth wing of the Tamils Representative Council. But, newsletter doesn't really do it justice. Honestly, it's more like a time capsule. It's this incredibly authentic snapshot of a community's world, their challenges, their celebrations, and their dreams, all captured right here.
But this isn't just some feel-good scrapbook. Not at all. Right from the get-go, this newsletter tackles some seriously heavy issues head-on. It gives you a real sense of the complex world these young people were trying to figure out.
I mean, just look at that front-page headline. It's incredibly stark. Attempted suicide in Indian women. Wow. And get this, it wasn't buried somewhere in the back. Nope, the community's leaders put this crisis front and center. They wanted it discussed openly.
So what was going on here? Well, the article points to this really difficult cocktail of intense social pressures, super high expectations from family, and this clash between tradition and modern life, all happening without the right support systems in place. For these young people, the stakes were just unbelievably high.
And as if these huge social problems weren't enough, they were also dealing with immediate personal tragedy. This page right here, it's a memorial for A Vijiyan. He was a really active member of the youth wing who passed away so suddenly just 3 days before he was supposed to turn 19. It's just a heartbreaking reminder of the real human-level losses this community was going through.
So, okay, you've got these immense pressures on one hand, and this profound personal grief on the other. It really makes you wonder, right? What do you do with all that? How does a community, especially its youngest members, even begin to respond to something so overwhelming?
Well, they responded with action. That's what they did. And one of their most powerful moves was to basically create their own history. They put together this who's who among Singapore Tamil youths, a directory designed to formally record and, more importantly, celebrate the achievements of their peers.
But here's what's so fascinating, the why behind it. The editor explains that if you don't recognize the youth who are putting in the work, they can get frustrated and maybe they won't want to serve anymore. They totally got that celebrating success wasn't just a nice to have, it was absolutely essential for the community's future.
And this idea, this belief in building up their own people, it all crystallized into one core philosophy that pretty much powered everything they did. Real, lasting empowerment begins with education.
And look, this wasn't just a bunch of nice words on paper. They were walking the walk, and you can actually find the proof tucked away at the bottom of a page in this tiny little stop press box.
So what was in that box? What were the results? It comes down to one number: 9. That's it. 9 students from their home tuition program got promoted to the more advanced Express academic stream. Think about that. This wasn't just a stat on a page. This was a life-changing moment for 9 kids, and it happened because the community decided to invest in itself.
The main engine for this change was something called the Educational Assistance Program, or EAP. And by 1985, get this, it was described as the only self-help educational program of its kind in the entire Indian community. And it was already heading into its 5th year. This was a serious, established operation for sure.
But these organizers were smart. They knew that you can't build a strong community just on textbooks and homework. It also needed joy. It needed friendship and that shared sense of just belonging. It needed real human connection.
And man, did they create those spaces. They were everywhere. They organized these solidarity picnics out at Changi Point, complete with tug-of-war. They set up tours of historic temples and monuments, really connecting the youth to their own heritage. It was all about having fun, sure, but it was also about building bonds that went way deeper than the classroom.
And when you look at the list, the sheer variety of what they were doing is just staggering. Seriously. They were hosting campfires, organizing night tours of the city, publishing books by young authors, and even getting involved in international youth exchanges. This wasn't just some after-school club. They were building an entire universe for their youth to grow and thrive in.
And in every single thing they did, you can see this clear focus that goes way beyond just the here and now. Every event, every single program was like another brick being laid for the foundation of their community's future.
And if you need just one piece of proof of how forward-thinking they were, this is it: a call for nominations for the next year's leadership team. Now remember, this newsletter came out in November 1985. They weren't just wrapping up the year, they were already actively building the next generation of leaders to carry that torch forward. Now that is vision.
And right there at the bottom of that same nominations page, you find this incredibly powerful motto. It's inclusive, it's ambitious, and it just perfectly sums up the spirit of this entire community. Man or woman, young or old. Aim for the top, aim for excellency.
So, when you take a step back and look at this one newsletter from nearly 4 decades ago, what do you see? You see a community that stared its darkest problems right in the face, that responded with so much creativity and structure, and that just never ever stopped building. And it really leaves us with a question for today, doesn't it? What can their story teach us about what it really means to build a resilient, visionary community in our own time?